Welcome in to episode 5 of Behind the Mic, where we go behind the mic of all your favorite personalities in sports media. And today, calling probably one of the only high school game-winning kicking field goals that I've ever seen on TikTok, it is Nate Tingle. Nate, thank you so much for joining us today.
Hey, thank you, Justin.
Awesome, man. I mean, we'll just get right into it. But I mean, how'd you get into broadcasting? What's the first thing? What's the story behind Nate Tingle when it comes to getting into broadcasting?
Well, I'll just start off. I'm 18 years old. I'm a senior in high school, and it was back in my eighth grade year where I used to have like a little sports talk show on Facebook. When back in like eighth grade year, like little me, and I actually got recognized by the former play-by-play broadcaster for Froggy 102.7. It's a Elkhart County radio station here in Indiana. He messaged me, asked me if I want to try out one game, and that one game turned into, during the whole season of that football year, that turned into me going down to the state championship game, broadcasting one of our local teams. It was me and Josh doing that. So it all started out my eighth grade year. It started off as, hey, let's try you out for one game, and now it turns into, I'm now a senior. I just completed my fourth full year of broadcasting high school football here around the area here in Indiana.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's longer than me, which is crazy to think about, which, because I got into it recently, but 4 years, that's amazing, getting recognized with something like that. If over the course of your 4 years, has there been a certain moment, whether it's like something that you called or something that happened like off screen, that is your favorite moment over the course of those 4 years?
Well, I'm sure what it was one of my more recent TikToks.
Yeah.
It's like 200,000 people saw it. It was Concord, it was Lafayette Jefferson, and don't get me wrong, we were expecting a good game, but we weren't expecting a shootout like we saw between those two teams. But it was Concord. They were down, I think they were down by 8, and they got a touchdown. No, sorry, they were down by 7, got a touchdown with like a minute to go, and they decided to go for 2. Missed a 2-point conversion. Throw over the middle was deflected by one of the linebackers for Jefferson. And then they decided to go for the onside kick. Concord had 2 timeouts left. They're like, we got to go for the onside kick. So Nathan Potter, the field goal kicker, goes out to do the onside kick. They get the onside kick recovered by Reese Brevard, their running back, wide receiver duo. He's going to Ball State this year to play D1 football. He gets the onside kick. And then they send out Nathan Potter to kick a 48-yard field goal to try to win the game. He's also a soccer player for Concord. So there's definitely some doubt in both me and my broadcast partner's minds. Like, he might actually miss this kick and this season's over with.
You could tell in the TikTok, you're like, you're going for the field goal. Like, you could tell it like in your voices, like you were not sure about that play, but
right. Well, because there was like maybe 20 seconds left. I think it was third down. They're like, we can try one more play here, but it's like, no, they're going to send out Potter to kick this field goal here. And, we're doing the math, and we're like, that's a 48-yard field goal. Nathan Potter's going to try to kick this one through. And, he's never kicked from this length before in a game before, so we're going to try it out here. Potter trots out there, kicks it through. I don't know if you actually saw the actual game footage, but he was good from about maybe 52, 53 yards. So he had some room to spare, but fans rushed the field. It was a home game, quote unquote, for Concord. Fans rushed the field. Team rushed the field, chased down Potter. That was probably one of my more memorable moments. I would say number 2 was my eighth grade year doing color for the state championship game. That was pretty cool. But number 1 is definitely Nathan Potter knocking through that 48-yard field goal to win the game for Concord.
Yeah. I mean, when it comes to broadcasting, it seems like you really have mastered it over these 4 years. And being so young doing it, it's so impressive. Has there been any motivations of like the highest people that got you into broadcasting once you found out you were getting into play-by-play? Was there someone that, stood out to you as like sort of that like big motivation to like sort of get that inspiration from?
Well, I kind of guess that, growing up as a sports fan, I grew up watching, whether it's College Game Day or growing up. When you grow up in Indiana, like I did, you really get invested in the basketball here, obviously. So there's multiple broadcasters here around the area that kind of really motivated me. Josh Williams is one of them who got me started into it. I never thought I'd be a broadcaster until Josh messaged me and said, "Hey, you want to try out a game?" Obviously, that turned into that. But even when I was younger, guys like Lee Corso, he was always fun to watch on College Game Day doing the headgear picks. Reese Davis, Kurt Herbstreit. So when I was younger, definitely Lee Corso, those type of guys. But as I grew up and as I'm doing my broadcasting career, guys like Josh Williams, Bob Nagel is a really good, well-known name around this area. He definitely was a motivator for me get into sports media. So just thankful for all those guys that got me the opportunity.
Yeah, and when it comes to sports broadcasting, I've mentioned it before with other people who've been on the show. You're gonna have moments where it's bloopers or mix-ups. What's the funniest moment that you've had over the course of these 4 years?
Ooh, the funniest moment I'm trying to think of a blooper I've had over these 4 years. I'm trying to think here. Oh yeah, I would say it was more recently. It was one of my last games I just broadcasted. Bremen and Triton. I think it was Triton. They were playing. They were playing. I think it was in the sectional semifinal, and the game was at LaVille. So every time my mind went to say, "Oh, I want to say Bremen," it came out as LaVille. So for like 10 minutes straight of that broadcast, I'm referencing Bremen as LaVille. And those two schools, they're one of the two biggest rivalries in the area. So fans were not happy that I was calling Bremen LaVille. So like after like the fifth time I've said LaVille and I meant Bremen, I get my producers in my ear saying, "Yo, Nate, you've got to stop calling Bremen LaVille." And then I cut to commercial break real quick. I'm like, "How long have I been saying that?" He goes like, "Dude, you've been saying it for like the whole first quarter, dude." I'm like, "Oh shoot, my bad." So we got it figured out. I realized I was broadcasting for Bremen, but it was just the fact that I was, at LaVille's gym. I see blue all over the place. I see LaVille's logo. I'm like, "Oh yeah, this is LaVille." It's not LaVille. It's Bremen. I'm broadcasting. The colors are not the same. Bremen's green. LaVille is blue. I don't know how I got those two mixed up, but for any Bremen fan that was upset with me calling LaVille, I am sorry for that. So we got it figured out though by the end of the
I was going to say those fans were probably like, "What is happening? Why does he keep calling LaVille?" They're like looking at their phones like, "Is this the right game?" Like or something.
Yeah,
like
right.
that.
I guarantee it, man.
But yeah, I mean, obviously, we asked these at like the end, but I want to ask it now just because it seems like you're already like pretty professional, and that's really impressive for being 18 years old, being in here for 4 years. What's the biggest thing you've learned personally from broadcasting that maybe it took you a little bit to adjust to, but it's something that now you've learned it is probably one of the most integral parts that you use in your commentary?
Well, I definitely think early on, when I started off, I was obviously in eighth grade. I was pretty young doing a broadcasting on the radio. I think the number one thing I learned was kind of like stay in your role and know your role in the broadcast. I started off as a color guy, but in my mind, I always wanted to do play by play. I wanted to be, the Gus Johnson calling, the game winning touchdown, him screaming into the microphone. But I kind of had to learn to stay in my role is that my role was not play by play. And there was a couple of times in my young broadcasting career where I didn't realize that, and I needed to be like reinforced to say, "Hey, that's not your role. Your role is to really, analyze the play that just happened on the court or on the field." So I would say the number one thing I had to learn was adjust to what's happening in the game, and also learn that I'm the color guy. I'm painting the picture of what just happened. I'm explaining what just happened, but even in my younger career, I was more trying to be like the bigger guy, as you can say, on the broadcast. But obviously, as I gotten older, I gotten a lot better. I stay in my lane now, I guess you can say
Yeah.
it in terms of broadcast now. But that was the biggest thing I had to learn or adjust to was, kind of staying in my lane when I was even younger.
Yeah, and I fully agree. I mean, you said it perfectly, like painting the canvas as the color commentator. That's the perfect thing to do, but just knowing having that good chemistry with your, fellow commentator that's huge. Like no matter what you do. So I fully agree when it comes to that. I mean, if how's it been? I'm assuming you've had probably the same commentator over the last few years. Everywhere you've gone, who's been your favorite person to interact with as a fellow commentator?
Well, favorite person I would say to interact with, I would have to say probably my first broadcasting partner I was with was Josh Williams. He really understood the game. He played quarterback around the area. He played quarterback for South Bend Calais, so he really understood the game. So he was just fun to do it with. But even my current broadcaster, Reed Marchman, he used to play high school football in Texas, so he really knows how rough it can get down in Texas, playing high school football down in Texas. So I guess I don't really have like a favorite guy. Every person I broadcasted with definitely, they have their I have favorite moments with them, but calling the game winning kick with Reed for Concord, and then doing the state championship with Josh. So not really a favorite, I guess you can say, but I've had a lot of fun with all the broadcasters I've interacted with.
Don't even get me started with like Texas high school stadiums. I saw someone show me a picture, and I'm like, this is a professional field.
Right.
There's like a low level professional field. Like, how are they affording this? Like, it's wild. I mean,
Exactly.
you mentioned college football. Getting that's where you're getting your most inspiration from. If you had to give it to me, what are your top three college football calls of all time?
Top three college football calls of all time. Well, I mentioned his name earlier, Gus Johnson. I love his. Um, it was Ohio State versus Maryland, and it was you got barbecue back there, and
That's
you
my
didn't
favorite.
invite me.
Yeah.
Hurt my feelings. That's one of my favorite calls. I really like that call. I like the if you've ever heard the Appalachian State home radio call when they upset Michigan, the passion
Oh,
the
yeah.
passion they had in that one was also really good. So I like that one. Then the last one, I gotta think here. The best football call is it's got to be the kick six. I think it was Brad Nessler who had that call on the kick six when Auburn returned the kick all the way back, the missed field goal all the way back. That was definitely number one. I think number one is the kick six call is Auburn's going to win the football game. That call is definitely got to be my number one pick. I remember watching that when I was younger, thinking,
Yeah.
"Oh my
There
goodness, that's
goes
a
Davis, and Elvis on the color commentator comes in. Oh my god! like he's freaking out like next to him and stuff like that. So if you mentioned commentators, and I want to get your personal perspective on this. One thing that is very apparent on this show is Mount Rushmores. We like to include certain Mount Rushmores. So I want to get the Nate Tingle commentary Mount Rushmore.
okay."
Who would be your top four?
My top four broadcasters of all time. I'm gonna have to go with. Oh man, is this rough? There's a lot of good broadcasters out there that I can include. Number one, just for like calling like really energetic, really good type of ball game. I like it's I think it's Brad Nessler for CBS. He's been doing games for a while, the play-by-play guy there. So I think Brad Nessler is going to be one of my guys. In terms of kind of like um, another sport, Phil Rafter, I think is his name for basketball. He has the famous onions call when Siena beat Ohio State way back. I think it was before I was born, but he's a really good color commentary guy. So I like him. I'm also a NASCAR guy, so I'm going to throw in Mike Joy. He's been around the sport for a while now. He's a really good broadcaster for NASCAR. And then I just think for like just straight up energy, gonna give it all he's got. It's got to be Gus Johnson for Fox Sports. Big noon Saturday kickoff. You hear his voice. College football is back. So he's definitely one of the better ones up there. So I think, yeah, those are my four picks for my Mount Rushmore of
Yeah,
broadcasters.
my favorite Gus Johnson one was the Chris Johnson one. Where it's like, watch out, he's got getting away from the cop's feet, and
Oh, I remember that.
and then there's silence because the broadcast is like, why would you ever say that?
Yeah.
Like in the moment, because I love Gus Johnson in the same way because he's in the moment. Like because sometimes
Yeah.
when you're in the moment as play by play, you kind of don't recognize what you say until after you say, it and you're like, I
Right.
shouldn't have said that. And I mentioned some of my best plays that I've ever called. Like it's either like a voice crack or I stumble on my words. Like it's obviously the top plays is when you know my words have to stumble and everything goes wrong. But let's move over to a different area. We like to have a little bit of fun here on the show,
Yeah.
and I want to ask you. We're going to stay on the topic of Mount Rushmores. I want you to give me your Mount Rushmore of favorite meals. What's the Nate Tingle food Mount Rushmore?
So yeah, so obviously, I'm sure you can attest to this. Being a broadcaster, you eat a lot on the road when you're traveling to different places. So I'm going to start off with like a quick meal, like on the go type of deal. Is that we got this? Well, me and my broadcast partner Reed got this. I think 3 times in the in postseason is Culver's. I love Culver's.
I've
they're
never had Culver's because it's not around here. So
Okay. So I like Culver's. It's quick. It's fast food. You got a great butter burger there, like that. But I think that's number one. Number two is just anything with chicken, whether it's fried chicken. I don't care if it's grilled chicken. Any type of chicken I like. I love my chicken, so I think that's number two for my meal. I'm a big steak guy as well. If you can cook me a really good steak, I'm going to devour that one pretty quickly. So, and then I think for my fourth one, I'm also I'm just a big like chicken wing guy. I know I already said chicken, but I'm gonna go with ribs. I love barbecue. My dad cooks really good barbecue ribs. So I think for quick on the road broadcasting, gotta be Culver's or some type of fast food. But if I'm gonna sit down somewhere, it's either chicken, steak, or ribs. Those are my top three for restaurants. So that's my Mount Rushmore
yeah,
for food.
I'm the same with you. I'm a big meat guy as well. So it makes perfect. I mean, yeah, it's awesome. Like, what else is there going to say about it?
Exactly.
Now, I haven't mentioned this since episode one, but I want your opinion on it since we brought up meat.
Yeah.
Is a hot dog a sandwich?
No, it's not.
It's not. Okay. All right.
Do you say it's a sandwich?
I say it's a So my reasoning is that there's bread on either side of the meat at one point. Therefore, it is a sandwich. That's my
Okay.
reasoning behind it. I understand when people say it's not a sandwich, and then I try and like rage bait them and just say like, of course it's a sandwich. And I think someone told me it was a burrito once or something like that, or like a sub.
That's just insane.
Like they're just saying stuff. I think they said like a Pop Tart's a calzone. You go down the rabbit hole if you really like want to. It's crazy.
That's funny.
To bring it back to broadcasting again, thank you so much for hopping on. This has been a lot of fun. We mentioned favorite moments and stuff like that. What's the one thing that you would give advice to when it comes to people getting into sports broadcasting? It's like, what would you give advice to like 7th grade, 8th grade Nate Tingle before he got into broadcasting, or to anyone else who was to possibly get into the field?
Well, I would say first off, is get as much experience as you can, not in terms of experience on the call, or it can be as simple as just turning on a game and broadcasting the game like that. That's something that I don't think a lot of people do. I think it can actually help that. If you just turn on a game, you mute the TV, and you just broadcast like that, you get your reps in. I would say also another tip is just get connected with people around the area, like people that who are broadcasters around the area. Reach out to them. Ask for advice from them. Say that you can just tell them like I'm looking to get into sports broadcasting. Most people are more than willing to give you advice on how to get into sports broadcasting because people who really love sports broadcasting, they're going to help other people get into it because they love to see sports broadcasters grow, whether that's radio or TV. So get your reps in. I would say get into contact with people around the area. Don't be afraid to reach out and just put yourself out there. Just get your name out there. Once you do get on the broadcast, put your name out there. You do a really good job at it. You post TikTok videos all the time about your highlights, so that's really good. I'm starting to do it a little bit more. So if you're getting into it, just put your name out there. You never know who can see it. You never know.
We need more electric calls, especially if there's the different angles of like the field goal one. If you get to post that one, because like that one was my favorite, just because the reaction at the end was the best part. Just because you weren't gonna believe it, and then you're like, oh, that's easy by like 7 yards, and the booth you can see like the people in the back lose it too, which is like the best part.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool because when it comes to commentating, I say this all the time, we're just super fans that like to talk. Like
Exactly.
that's especially when it comes to anyone in the field, as long as people are more than willing to help because it's to grow the game,
Right.
especially, we don't know how long like the top players are going to like stay up there. You know, you look at like Kevin
Yeah.
Harlan, Mike Breen, like those are players that, you know, Kevin Harlan, awesome by the way.
Oh
He's
my goodness, he's
absolutely
great.
He's probably, I would argue he's in GOAT status just because his multi versatility.
I'd agree with that one. That's actually, yeah, that's a good one.
And I mean, a March Madness good from Kevin Harlan, nothing. You get like shivers just thinking about it because it's that
It's
good.
gold.
Yeah. So again, thank you so much for hopping on, man. This was a lot of fun. But
Yeah.
since you mentioned that you were a big college football guy, you got in because of college football. You are an Indiana fan, so I have to ask you if you had to give me a pick for a national championship matchup for next season for football, what would it be?
Ooh. Well, it's pretty early to tell, but
This is it's way too early predictions, but I want to see like what you would say.
I like that. So even though I do live in Indiana, I'm not an Indiana fan actually.
Oh, really? Okay.
Huge Nebraska fan actually. You'd never believe it.
I
Huge
never
Nebraska.
would have.
So, but for next year college football, even though I do live in Indiana, so I'm gonna give it to Indiana. They restocked. They got a really good quarterback in Josh Hoover coming up from TCU. They got Nick Marsh, the wide receiver from Michigan State. They're going to be two dangerous weapons with each other. So I like Indiana in the national championship, and I'm going to give the slight edge to Texas. I think Indiana and Texas in the national championship. You got Arch Manning coming back. He started this past year off a little rough, but I just think that he was new to the game. He was never used to a game at that type of speed before. So, but as the year went on, he got a lot better. Arch got a lot better as the year went on. So I like an Indiana, I like a Texas matchup in the national championship. I wouldn't be surprised if Indiana goes back to back. Kurt Signetti has it rolling down there in Bloomington. I think he's going to have a back-to-back national champion. I wish I could say Nebraska makes it, but we might be really bad this year. I'm going to be honest with you. So as long as someone from the Big Ten wins it, I'll be fine with that.
That's why they're leading in beer sales. That's why that stat came up whenever they said they were selling beer.
Yes.
But I think it's so interesting. The last one I ask you, and then we'll head out of here. I mean, the NIL era. I want to get your thoughts on that because it's so interesting. Saying Indiana in the national, looking to repeat, it doesn't make. Also, Nick Marsh. I've seen him up close since I'm a Boston College fan, unfortunately. And I've seen him up close. The fact that they got him for the value they did is absolutely ridiculous. He's going to be an easy X factor for them. What's your thought overall on the NIL era in general? Because I know people have different feelings about it, where people are like, "Man, go back to the old days," or like this new era is like really good because you had the issues with someone like a Trinidad Chambliss who pulls from the draft, tries to get like a 6 year of eligibility. What's your thoughts overall on the NIL era as we've had it so far?
Well, me personally, I don't really like the idea of the whole NIL deal, whole NIL sense type of deal. Don't get me wrong. I think obviously NIL was set up for players to get sponsorship deals from other companies. And I like that factor of it. I like the factor that you can brand your name out there with different companies. But it got to the fact where universities are now just forking out money for players to come to the university. So NIL has turned into a pay to win type of deal. If you don't have, $40 million, $50 million spent on a roster, you're not going to do well in your conference or in the college football landscape. You can even see it a little bit in college basketball, where you used to see all these huge upsets in college basketball, but now upsets are really starting to go downhill because Duke is spending $40-50 million on their roster for college basketball alone. But I think the sense of that, I like the idea of players getting money from companies in different NIL brands like that. I don't like the fact that universities are forking out money just to get players to come to these different colleges. So I think there's a fine line where you can draw NIL at. I like it for, because college kids, they deserve the extra money. College is expensive to go to. And I'm going to college next year, and I understand how expensive it can be. I wish I could get an NIL deal, for my broadcasting, but obviously it ain't going to happen, and we're not to that point yet.
We are nowhere close to that point.
We're not going to get to that point. But It's just a fact where it's that I like NIL if you use it correctly. I like it for players getting the money from companies, sponsorships like that, but I don't like it where you're just spending $50 million to get, oh, this one quarterback is going to change our whole roster around. And of course, you're going to get like a $30 million running back and a $20 million wide receiver. Yeah, you're going to win the national championship because you're spending that type of money. Indiana is a prime example of that. And so is LSU this year. Lane Kiffin is just spending, millions after millions to get his roster where he wants it this year for LSU. So obviously, if you're a big name program like the Texas and even Indiana now, you're going to do a lot better than smaller schools like Purdue. They're at a disadvantage. Rutgers is at a disadvantage. Teams like even smaller teams. I know Vanderbilt's been pretty good in the past couple of years, but even smaller name brands like Vanderbilt, because they're not the flashy names that can draw players to their university. If you say Alabama, top players are going to want to go to Alabama because they know what Alabama's built on. They're built on winning. They're built on that type of money. So that's my thoughts on the NIL deal. I like it if you use it correctly, but that's my thoughts on NIL.
Yeah, I mean, trust me. If you were slated to go to the Jets, I would want to go back to college too. But anyways, right. I mean, that entire Oregon situation, that was hilarious. Where Jets like, oh, we got another quarterback. Nope. I'm not ruining my career. I'm going back for another year. But that will do it here for episode 5 of Behind the Mic. Again, Nate, thank you so much for hopping on, man.
Of course. Thank you very much, Justin.
Of course. That will do it again for the Behind the Mic episode 5 episode. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We will see you guys next week for another episode of Behind the Mic.